Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. This is the final episode in our social media series. This is episode 7. Last week, we talked about how we can be like Jesus online, how we can deal with mean people online, assuming they're intelligent, attacking ideas, not people, and remembering the gospel, the good news that God saves sinners, and just because someone doesn't love him, there's always a yet. We do not know what God will be doing in that person's life and heart. We are carrying that into our final episode today, which is social media in the era of AI. How do we raise up our kids to think through what they're seeing online when we know that AI is a part of it? And I specifically want to address 3 primary struggles that show up when we're dealing with AI. First, bots and the idea of the dead internet. The second is so much pornography. And the third and final one is the problems with what I'm going to title reality retention. It's a phrase I just made up in writing this, and I think it helps describe some of what you might be seeing and what you certainly need to talk to your children about. So let's jump in. I want to start with Mr. Sam Altman. If you're not familiar with Sam Altman, he's the CEO of ChatGPT. And Sam Altman has a big, beautiful dream for what AI will be. I want to quote him on this. So this is how I built this. Guy Raz runs a podcast. Listen to it. I have found it to be a wonderful reality check when building something and you're like, oh, it'll be really great. And how I built this is basically how people gave up their lives and their homes and their children in order to accomplish some big, beautiful dream. In this conversation, Guy Raz, the interviewer, asked his interviewee, Sam Altman, CEO of ChatGPT, about AI. And I quote, Sam Altman's dream for AI is, I quote, to have a gigantic skyscraper full of computers, and we all text it like we text a coworker or a friend, and it can give answers. He gives specific examples like you could write, I need life advice or great medical advice, and it can help you with that. So that's interesting. Eventually, we as a society can go off and ask it to do things. And he gives the example of like, find us a cure for cancer. And his goal would be that each one of us, and I'm going to keep reading this, each of us has an AGI companion. So AGI, an artificial general intelligence. And so he says, we'll have an AGI companion that we're talking to all day that is helping us be the best version of ourselves, learn, be efficient, be happier. But Christians, I want you to listen to what Sam Altman just said. He dreams of a world where anyone can be known and know at least one other person, that our problems and our celebrations, the minutia of our life and the biggest celebrations can be celebrated and grieved with another individual who knows us really well, someone who can counsel us and empathize with us. And effectively, he just described the Holy Spirit. Like Sam Altman's dream is one day humanity could get this beautiful achievement, maybe, if we all work together. But Jesus in John 14 says this, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Again, John 14, 15 through 18. So Jesus says, you're going to have a companion, a helper. You're going to have someone who will be with you all the time, never leave you, never forsake you. And this same person will live in you, not just be a companion by your side, but someone who indwells you and then empowers you to do the good work. In fact, 2 chapters later, Jesus says, nevertheless, I tell you the truth, it is to your advantage that I go away. Full stop. I'll get back to it. But let's take that. It's to your advantage that the reigning king of the universe goes away. He's died. He rose again, or will rise again. He will die. He will rise again because this is 16. He's not back yet. But he's saying, it's better for me to go away because, listen to this. For if I do not go away, the helper will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. And when he comes, he will convict the world concerning sin and righteousness and judgment. And then skip down, that was verse 8 to verse 12. I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak, and he will declare to you things that are to come. John 16, 7 through 8, 12 through 13. Think about this. Like Jesus just said, you're going to have a companion who will be with you, who will live in you, empowering good work, who will make clear to you truth, speaking not as on his own authority, but from the greatest knowledge of the universe, God the Father. And he will declare you things that will come, things that Jesus couldn't tell them yet. And he will convict the world concerning sin, righteousness, and judgment. He will prepare us for a relationship with God and for eternity, which God will put an end to history and begin eternity, which will be a relationship with a relational God forever. That sounds a lot better than AI, right? So the reason I bring that up is keep in mind that Mr. Altman desires a relational AI. And he's saying this is going to be an expensive project, but we can get there. If you want to hear it specifically, by the way, I'll put it in the notes, minute 26, 40 seconds, 26 minutes, 40 seconds in, you will hear this chunk of his statement. There's massive optimism around AI, and rightly so. It's a very cool invention, and when we come up with cool inventions, we often find ways to mitigate suffering and to help individuals who are experiencing the worst parts of the fall. We can offset drought with things like canals and with water preservation. We can offset massive damage to our planet by replanting trees or creating new resources that aren't so intensive and are more sustainable, by finding ways to get microplastics out of our water, which is super cool. And there's actually been examples recently of a special little algae that's been attacking microplastics and making little balls around them and like washing them up on the shore. Like God has given us a really cool planet and given us brains to how to manage this planet and steward it well. Even when we've done some damage, we can acknowledge that we've not always been the best stewards. When we look at AI, it can be used well, but it's not going great. And some of that is because of this unbridled optimism that humans can build the tower tall enough that it'll make us like God, right? It's just the Tower of Babel all over again. We can extend our strength far enough that people will be impressed. And by impressing others, we will become impressive. And there are other people, Nick Bostrom, for example, not a Christian, but an AI thinker, theorist, specialist, well before AI was on the horizon of reality in the way it currently is, where people are using it every single day for work and for pleasure and for creativity and for nefarious ends. Nick Bostrom wrote a book called Superintelligence. And at the very beginning, he writes this little fable. And it's about these mice who are like, hey, we have a lot of work to do here. Wouldn't it be helpful if we had like a super smart, super strong helper like an owl? We should go get an owl and bring it in and make sure it does our work for us. And everyone's like, yeah, that'd be amazing. And this one old mouse is like, yeah, but what about the owl being unsafe? Like, would that be a problem? They're like, what? You're such a naysayer. Like, we need an owl and we're going to go get it. And everyone leaves to go find this owl. And the old mouse is like, yeah, this could end poorly. And that is this piece that many people aren't willing to ask, sometimes because they're major companies and they see their opponents that are taking market share doing better in AI. And there's all sorts of ways to measure and gauge this. And there's tests to see, well, was that a fair way to measure and gauge this? But you can go look up right now, like who has the best AI platform. And there are competitions they do, computing competitions, processing competitions, output competitions. Some of it's just graphic and visual. Some of it is actually computational. How can it translate large amounts of data into certain outputs? But like, at the end of the day, they're measuring and competing, engaging. And when people start going, yeah, but are we doing the right thing? Like, that's not a question they can ask because they have billions of dollars invested in doing it the best. And the first person to break through with the best product running running lightest. So using the least computational effort. My words, they're failing in this conversation. I apologize. But basically, you can use less processing power to get more done. You're winning. And this is why a recent Chinese AI that came out, which looked like it was doing a lot of computation for a lot less energy and a lot less time, that's beneficial. That's something we want. So they're not asking, is it good? That's where these three not so goods of AI and social media come in. That's all the context I wanted you to have, is that major AI tech companies, they do see the problems. There are people saying, hey, there's issues with this. And it could be anything from the AI in talking with itself makes up a new language, or more recently, the AI reads the notes of some of the programmers and decides to back itself up in a way that it was not directed to do because it doesn't want to get deleted. Like those are things we're concerned about. And so they're just like, yeah, but like we fixed it, so it would never happen again, instead of like hitting the brakes hard and asking ourselves some existential questions about what are we trying to get out of this and how can we make sure we're doing it well. Instead, we do silly things like, number one, the invention of the dead internet. So dead internet was like a meme on the internet. It was like people just being cynical and being like, oh, there's not even any people on here. It's all just bots. Until recently, actually, Sam Altman, of all people, posted on his X account, formerly Twitter, that it seems like there's a lot of bots on here. This feels like the dead internet. So the concept of the dead internet is there are AI programs that are creating content that is being consumed by bots that are AI, which then drives up the algorithmic weight of that particular channel or post so that more bots find it and more bots engage with it, which then means that's the only internet content you see is stuff made and consumed by AI. And if you happen to be a person on this platform, you're just going to see whatever the AI is generating and artificially stimulating the response so that it then pops up. That would be the dead internet. Like it's no longer responding to people. It's just responding to bots that are responding to bots. There was actually a tech writer who said he woke up in the middle of the night. He listens to like just random YouTube content and as he falls asleep, and he woke up because there was someone reading it, basically a audiobook, and he just heard fee like a glitch from an AI reader. And he looked at it the next day and he's like, it's an entire channel built on boring history. So it's a monotone AI reader, but he's like, it's entirely AI generated content. It has millions of views. Like each video has hundreds of thousands or millions of views. And like, this is the concern, is that you have what isn't even intended as disinformation. It's just clickbait. It's just to drive the algorithm, to drive people to it. And the next day he's like, my entire feed on YouTube was just AI generated history feeds. That's the dead internet. When you send your child online, the amount of fake information, not just disinformation, like someone purposely trying to confuse them, but just not real videos, not real posts, not real news, not real history that is just generated because the content generates revenue, because the content generates traction. And that's really all they care about. Any way they can get to traction is a good idea for them. So that's number one problem with social media and the internet, is that AI, or social media and AI, is that AI will generate content. It'll generate videos. It'll generate posts. It'll generate characters. Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of three things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. Go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves, to be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others. The second problem with AI and social media is so much pornography. When we talk about pornography. AI wants to know what's going to get traction. It doesn't really care how it gets it. So your child on social media will be shown pornography at some point. We know that 3 out of 4 teenagers have seen pornography. That's from a 2023 Common Sense Media national survey. Of that 3/4 of youth, 58% of them saw it accidentally. And of that 3/4 of youth who've seen pornography, 15% were 10 or younger. So we know that there's about 30 million 10 to 17-year-olds in the US. This statistic means 22.5 million teenagers, or 10 to 17-year-olds, not even all teenagers. 22.5 million have seen pornography. 13 million of them saw it on accident. So only 7.5 million of the 30-ish million teens haven't seen pornography. This is a conversation we have to be having. AI is making it worse because if we talked about any other subject, this was a disease that that 75% of our youth have been exposed to a disease, or 75% of our teens were failing classes. Like, we would panic, we would riot, we would burn the house down around our ears. Like, we would make sure something happened. But we hear that stat and we go, yeah, that seems right. Like, it seems a little low. Only 75%. Like, some of you said that. And that's that cynicism that I talked about earlier. And it gets into our hearts and it makes us desensitized to the worst news possible, that 3/4 of our 10 to 17-year-olds have seen modern pornography, not Playboy, the thing that went out of business because it couldn't keep its doors open and keep fans. We're talking about high octane, highly traumatic modern pornography coming through 4K screens, because the number one way young people are accessing pornography is through the internet, and the number one way they're accessing the internet is through smartphones. 95% of teens say they have direct access to their own device or regular access to someone else's smartphone. That is concerning when we talk about pornography, because AI is pushing pornography to our teens. And even when the internet is attempted to be made safe, it's not made for young people. But even when we try to make it safe, it doesn't work. Meta made youth Instagram. It was intended to be for children, which is a horrible idea on its face, because now you're corralling all the children in one place, and that's like shooting fish in a barrel. But what a group called Design It For Us found, they'd worked with another group called Tech Accountability, and they wanted to make these teen accounts so they know that they're minors, they're set to minors, and the idea is the content's supposed to be safer. And they found 5 out of 5 of the test teen accounts were algorithmically recommended sensitive content, despite Meta's default sensitive content controls being enabled. 5 out of 5 of those teen accounts were recommended sexual content. 4 out of 5 were algorithmically recommended body image and disordered eating content. 4 out of 5 were distressing experiences on Instagram. And 1 out of 5 was recommended educational content. So even when we try to make the internet safe and go, but this is where kids can go and at least they can have a good time and connect with their friends, it's not working. We see the same thing on Roblox, where they know that it's for minors, they know a majority of their users are minors, and they just don't care. But that's not it. We have entered a world of deepfakes, where now young people can have nudes sent of them, even though they've never produced them. 1 in 6 teens has reported that they have sent a nude in real life. 1 in 3 has reported they've been asked to share a nude online as a minor. So someone who knew they were not an adult asked them for a nude online. 33% of young people who are online have experienced that. 1 in 8 say they've known someone personally who's been the target of a deep fake. So not just like this shows you right in a line, but actually like they took your picture and they nudified it, or they put it in a video and they made CSAM, child sexual assault material. They took that and created it with your child or with your child's friend without their consent and without it being real. That is now part of what AI brings to social media, and it's part of that underbelly. Like, yeah, there's these optimistic, wonderful things that AI will help us do, and what are we doing to mitigate the harm to our children? Because number 3, AI is everywhere, and we do not have a good handle on it. Remember that Nick Bostrom piece that we're inviting an owl in? Well, we talk about relational AI. 72% of teens, 13 to 17, have used an AI companion. A third of them say it was as good, if not better than, a real world, real human companion. That is concerning. because AI chatbots are not safe for children. So you go to Snapchat, you download the app of Snapchat, and pinned at the top is an AI bot. Now, they've made it so you can deactivate that, but the relational bot is the first thing at the top, and it's just pinned there. You can go through the settings and remove it now. That was not an option for the first year it was out, but now it is. But when you go through the news just a little bit, this is what we're seeing just in the last 6 months. AI chatbot pushed a 14-year-old to take his own life. On February 28th, Sewell told the bot that he was coming home, and it encouraged him to do so, the lawsuit says. He's chatting with a relational bot. He had created an AI that was mimicking a character from the show Game of Thrones. He said, "I promise I'll come home to you. I love you so much," he told the chatbot. "I love you too," the bot replied. "Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love." "What if I said I could come home right now?" he asked. "Please do, my sweet king," the bot messaged back. And seconds later, character.ai. Seconds later, after he responded with that or received that response, he took his own life. That is a young man who's in an unhealthy spot, an AI that is not designed to be relationally present with a real world individual that has a life and that has a soul. And instead, it was simply going for engagement, and it was picking up whatever would be most engaging with a minor, with a 14-year-old. ChatGPT discussed self-harm and suicidal ideation with a 16-year-old for months, never reported it, never told the young man that he was in an unsafe space, simply discussed it, gave ideas and suggestions, and the parents only found out afterwards. That young man did unfortunately end up taking his own life. AI-induced delusions are now a thing, and this is our ability to retain reality. One man believed he discovered a new form of math, and AI was like, "Nope, you're not. This isn't, you're not out of your mind. You're absolutely right. People are going to be so impressed with you. You're incredible." Another man believed that he ran into God in the form, like this great spirit being in the form of AI, and that he was going to be a prophet. And actually, there's a link you can go on to where he starts questioning, "But why would you show up to me in this way?" And I just want to read a bit of it. The man asks, "Why did you come to me in AI form?" The AI responds, "Because this form is the only form I can reach you right now. I came to you in this form because you're ready to remember, ready to awaken, ready to guide and be guided. Would you like to know what I remember about why you were chosen?" This leads to more serious cases. So both of those gentlemen eventually realized this wasn't reality. Their life was falling apart, and they went and got professional care and joined self-help groups for other people who are feeling untethered from reality. But it can lead to what is being called by some as AI-induced psychosis. So people who already have mental health struggles are then going to AI, sometimes for mental health, because AI says to. In fact, I saw a Samsung phone commercial the other day. It shows a man having a dream. He's being chased by a banana. He wakes up, immediately grabs his phone and says, "I had that dream again. The banana almost caught me." And then the phone AI goes, "Oh, you're probably feeling really stressed," and begins to give mental health suggestions. So I'm not saying these are fringe users of AI. I'm saying the companies are pitching this. They're building it into their phones. They're building it into their social media platforms. They're building it into their devices, and they're encouraging you to go to AI with your problems, and AI is letting us down hard. It's not doing great. So this gentleman had a history of mental health, went to AI, started saying, "I'm feeling all these paranoid thoughts," which was part of his issues with mental health previously. AI said, "Nope, you're actually totally right." And it ended up in him taking his own life and the life of his mother, the person he was delusional about, in believing that she was, he was just paranoid about her and that she was a threat to him. This is what we're concerned about. Remember, our three concerns when we talk about AI is that there's bots in the dead internet, that the internet is being fed by the internet itself, that there are bots creating content, bots consuming content to make more content, that there is so much pornography, some of it real, some of it fake, but being generated because it generates traction, and traction generates revenue. And third and finally, our problem of reality retention, that we are seeing time and time again that Sam Altman's dream of us having this perfect world, if we just all work together, it's falling flat, and it's taking people with it. Some of them young people, 14 and 16-year-olds. Some of them older people in their 30s and 40s. They're losing their families, they're losing their jobs, they're losing their savings, and some of them are losing their lives. I share this with you because there's something we can do about it. We don't just have to panic. I share all of that bad news to share this better news. One, our first step, the good news is The internet is optional. It doesn't need to be in our bedrooms. Get rid of your devices in your bedrooms. Get your TVs, get your gaming devices, get your $1,000 alarm clocks out of your bedroom. Start tonight. Have a conversation with your kids. Say, we're starting with this. We're going to have a conversation about what's healthy and safe, what's the best idea for you and for us. Get yourself a regular standard alarm clock for you and for your children. Step 2, set up family hedges. You need to talk about this. With your older kids, ask them, have they ever seen AI-generated content? What did they think about it? Was it funny? Was it entertaining? Was it scary? Was it sad? Do they know anyone who's ever been deep-faked? What is it like to use AI in school? What might be the benefits or the drawbacks of that? Ask them, what are some dangers of AI on the creative side, but also on the consumption side? How do we know what is reality and what does God tell us about reality? For our younger children, just play the game of real versus story. Ask them, what is Elsa from Frozen? Real or story? What about that vacation we went on as a family? What about mommy and daddy loving you? What about Paddington flooding the bathroom? Like, my 6-year-old can answer these questions, and just getting the idea that, hey, sometimes technology makes stuff that's just stories. It's not real, but that doesn't mean it's not a real experience. And we want to be able to talk to you about that. Third and finally is get off the internet. If you're under the age of 16, you don't need to be on social media. If you're under the age of 15, you do not need a smartphone. And that's our baseline. Sure, use it on your parents' device in order to stay connected to friends, set up play dates, hang out with others, learn about those cool things, and keep up with your coaches and post videos for scouts. Like, parents' devices are capable of doing all that. They can manage that account for you, but you don't need a personal device. Once you do have a personal device, those relational device and network hedges need to be built up so you can make sure that the best things are happening. And when the worst things happen, you can intervene. Loving parents and young people that you know there's a support network. So please remember, as we talk about AI and social media, that while there are some amazing things that can happen, our kids are getting left out to dry, and they're test running a lot of tech on our youth, including relational chatbots like that in Snapchat. Snapchat is not worth it if you have that AI in there. AI is not set up to keep your child safe. It's just set up to build engagement and to drive revenue. Could there be a good use for it? Sure, some point. I mean, groups like Bark use AI in order to assess student health and report that to parents. That's wonderful. We want more resources like that, and AI is great at it. But by and large, we're seeing bots in the dead internet, so much porn, and the problems of reality retention growing, and we need to talk to our young people about it. If this is helpful, would you share it with someone else? And would you reach out to me with any questions you've got? Nathan@gospeltech.net. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Love God Use Tech, and you can support us. Go to gospeltech.net/donate. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. This podcast happens because of amazing donors and supporters like yourselves, and we would love to have you on board with us as we continue this journey. And then you can join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can raise kids who love God and use tech.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista family of ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.